Severance just gave us one of the best episodes of the season with Season 2 Episode 6, and following a few plot setups for Irving, Burt, Dylan, Helly, and most importantly Mark, it feels like this next episode, Episode 7, is where the pace is going to start to rapidly increase and build towards what I imagine is a climactic finale. With the title of the next episode being Chikhai Bardo, and that very phrase being connected to the 6 Bardos in Tibetan Buddhism and the stage of death specifically. I feel like this next episode could be a big one. So with that, let's dive into the video and I'll share my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. Here is Severance Season 2 Episode 7 Theories Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The meaning of the episode title. When it comes to the title of the episode, Chikhai Bardo, it's deeply connected to Tibetan Buddhism. Bardo is actually a term which represents the intermediate state between death and rebirth, and it feels like that's the position that we left Mark in during the end of the previous episode where we saw that his reintegration process was sped up. His severance chip was flooded and he ended up passing out due to his innie and outie's memories combining as one and him not being able to handle it. When it comes to Chikhai Bardo specifically, it's seen as the stage where somebody's said to experience the clear light of reality, and it's at the 4th Bardo, which is considered the Bardo of death, something which I don't think Mark will be experiencing, unless it's some kind of metaphorical death due to him now being reintegrated and a new kind of Mark being born. With people experiencing the clear light of reality, I think this is definitely alluding to Mark's reintegration being a success despite the passing out that occurred at the end of the previous episode. I feel he's now going to have access to his innie's memories moving forward whilst in his outie's form, and the same is going to be said for his innie with his outie's memories too. Hence why the episode has adopted that title. This is something which I think could also alter the progress on the Cold Harbor project. Mark was making steady progress and the higher-ups at Lumen were happy, but with him most likely missing work due to his condition, and then when he returns, his mind will most likely be distracted and not as focused due to all of his outie's memories being within it. I think this means that the greatest achievement that the planet has ever seen might end up being compromised in some way. I also wonder if the episode title could be insinuating that the group in MDR will get some kind of insight into the exports hallway. It was briefly touched on in the previous episode through Dylan when he told Helly and Mark about the drawing and the directions. And maybe if Mark doesn't go back to work right away due to him most likely not being in any condition to go back after what happened, I wonder if Helly will go on a quest to the hallway, especially now that she knows where the directions are. Dylan will most likely be too held up on not wanting to lose his privileges of seeing Grechen, something he'll value even higher now that they've kissed, so I don't think he'll get involved. I think the title of this episode and the connection to the clear light of reality could be connected to 2 main aspects of episode 7. Dylan and Gretchen's plan. With regards to Dylan, I think we're going to see some kind of division forming between himself and his fellow MDR members. There was a slight moment of tension in the previous episode when he told the group about the directions to the exports hallway, but he said how he didn't want to get in trouble and refused to say why, only saying, "You guys don't know everything," which showed that in that moment he was putting his own priorities over that of Mark's and the wider group of finding out exactly what's going on behind the doors of Lumen. When compared to all of the members in MDR, Dylan is definitely in the best off position at the moment. I mean, he's getting to meet his outie's wife, he's finding out about his outie's family, his outie's life, and he's forming a genuine human connection with Grechen. Something which is giving him a wider purpose and is allowing him to feel like an actual person. Something that Miss Huang wouldn't be happy with. So that's going to be something that he's not going to want to jeopardize. However, what I will say is the wider group could end up finding out about Dylan cozying up to Mr. Milchick and falling in line for those privileges, which could cause even more division. Within the most recent episode, we saw him mention to Grechen in passing, "I wish I could be with you all the time." This was a throwaway line, but I think it could actually be a line of importance. We saw just how unhappy Grechen was with her actual husband, outie Dylan. I mean, look at her, especially when compared to how she was with innie Dylan. There were contrasting feelings and emotions for sure. So I wonder if both Dylan and Grechen might look to conspire against outie Dylan and look for a way for the overtime protocol to be activated. Something which would allow innie Dylan to take full control over the body, and he might actually get to meet his outie's family that way. This is something that I imagine would take a lot of planning, and whilst it might not all happen in the next episode, I feel like the seed was planted with the kiss and the way that they were acting with each other. So as they continue to get closer in the next episode, that could well be developed. Burt's villain arc. In the next episode, I think we're going to learn a little bit more about Burt, and we'll see that for the entire time that he was with Irving, he's not actually been who he said that he was. In episode 6, we saw that Fields almost dropped Burt in it when he said how he'd worked at Lumen for about 20 years, when Burt originally implied that he'd only worked there since the Severed office opened up around 12 years ago, something which was a bit of a fib. Whilst Irving was at Burt's for dinner, we saw that Mr. Drummond used that opportunity to go to Irving's house and have a snoop around and investigate exactly what Irving had been looking into. The main question is, how did Mr. Drummond know that Irving was out? Well, we have seen Drummond lingering around and watching the employees, as we saw with Mark in episode 2 in the diner, so he might have just been stalking. But I think this could actually tie into the wider theme of Burt being on the side of Lumen and him informing Mr. Drummond that Irving was going to be vacant from his property at that time. This could mean that the entire time that Burt was getting to know Irving, it could have actually been the version that we saw on the outside, and he may never have actually been severed. Or if he was severed, the Glasgow block could have been enabled, which ultimately allowed him to know what was going on, which could also mean that he's been lying to his husband Fields too. Fields insinuated that Burt wasn't a very good person because he believed that he was going to hell, something which was also supported visually by the fire that was constantly around him. So I wonder what it is that Burt's done on the outside that's led his own husband to think that. I definitely think that Burt is working with Lumen and that he could well be a higher up there. He's got a lovely home, and when looking at the likes of Dylan, Irving, and Mark's outie, their homes are nothing like what Burt's was, and he was of a similar level to what they were on when working on the Severed floor. So he definitely has more secrets that he's holding on to. That look in his eye as Irving walked away. Burt is definitely up to something for sure. Harmony Cobel. We've not actually seen Harmony Cobel in 3 episodes now, and the last we saw of her, she got in her car after Helly said that they could reset and she drove off in fear. I'm actually craving Harmony Cobel's story because in a show that's riddled with mystery right down to its core, as a character in her own right, she probably has the most mystery about her. I think we could get a glimpse of her in the next episode, especially seeing as though we haven't seen her in a while. With Mark most likely being in a state where he's going to be recovering, he might not get as much screen time as usual, and that could open up the door for Harmony Cobel to walk in and for us to pick up with her. If we do see Miss Cobel, I think we'll see her on the road again, or at least at the destination that she was heading towards, Salt's Neck. Within this part of the story, I feel we could have the potential to learn more about her past and her backstory. Something which I'm pretty desperate to know more about, as it was definitely the thing that shaped her most into becoming the devoted follower of Kierism that we've seen. Although, with her walking away from Lumen after her feeling as though they weren't treating her in a way that she felt she deserved, we could see her with a completely different mindset and no longer having that core sense of grounding that she got from that religious cult that she was a part of, so she could be drastically different. We know that her mother was an important figure to her as she had Charlotte Cobel's breathing tube with her when she was in the car, and she looked at it in an emotional way. So if she does go to Salt's Neck, the very destination that she was reluctant to drive to in episode 2, maybe that location could hold importance because it could have been where Harmony was raised before her mother passed away. And that could be the very reason that landed her in the orphanage and ultimately plucked from there where she ended up at Myrtle Egan School for Girls and adopting the mindset and attitude that she had in the present day with her deep connection to Lumen and Keir Egan, as that's where the girls' school looked to get students from with the hopes of being able to indoctrinate them. I'd love to see some flashbacks incorporated into the episode with Harmony's arc, as I think it would paint a great picture for the character. If we do see this, I feel we'll have a deep connection with Harmony in a way that we've never had before, and it might actually make us sympathize with her, something I never thought I'd say. So I'm hoping something like this will end up happening. As per usual, there are many different directions that the next episode could go in. But based on how episode 6 concluded and also the title of episode 7, these are the events and stories that I think we could expect to see when the show returns next week. So, there you have it, Severance Season 2 Episode 7 Theories Explained. If you want to see more breakdowns on Severance Season 2, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a video. What do you think will happen next? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.